I call the CEO of my company and I tell her, I'm not ready to have this conversation with you. Okay, there was a lot of changes, turmoil going on in my life, and I realized it was time for a change and I had to go back to work. I was going back to my original profession, which was court reporting, some 13 odd years ago. My son was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I realized that I needed to be home. My dream job, which is every court reporter's dream job, is to be a closed captioner for the hearing impaired. So a lot goes into acquiring a court reporting job. We're talking $10,000 worth of equipment. I didn't have the capabilities. I didn't have the time. I didn't have what I needed to make that happen, not even knowing if I could get the job in captioning, or much less court reporting. I was feeling abandoned by God sometimes, and just like, you know what I'm going through, you know my situation. My daughter and I were just out shopping and she picked up this picture and said, "Mom, you have to have it." All it says is, "Oh, please, put on some lipstick and pull yourself together." I knew I needed to fast and pray. There were many times at the beginning that I didn't know what I was gonna do. There was even a time I skipped tithing, and the guilt was so overwhelming that on my next paycheck, I double tithed to make up for it. I met someone actually on Facebook, didn't know her, that was selling everything that I needed top to bottom. We're still friends to this day actually, and I actually trained her to do what I'm doing now. Once hired, not only did I have the job, but things were moving very quickly. I was asked to start recruiting. Shortly after that, I was asked to start training. That in turn led another company to me and offered me a position, offered me basically double the money that I was making, better hours, the whole bit. And what do? I mean, how can you refuse better money? I call the CEO of my company and I tell her, I'm not ready to have this conversation with you. I talked to her and I was honest with her, told her the whole situation. She basically put me to tears, told me, we can't lose you, and gave me every compliment you could imagine, and gave me more than what the other company offered me. Ultimately, my hours were cut, my pay was doubled, so it was just all the way across the board, beyond my wildest imagination. And God has really been faithful. From day one that I was hired, I had made a promise to God before I even got the position that there would not be a time that I didn't tithe, because I knew where that job came from, I knew where my source was, and I knew where I had to keep my faith focused on. You still don't feel deserving. Sometimes you still feel like, in this situation, it's too much. It's above and beyond. And every time I get another one, it's, it almost feels undeserving. It's a huge blessing in my life, and I'm really grateful because He's faithful. Through this process and through fasting and praying, and especially my children watching me walk through this, I tell them all the time, you can't ever tell anybody that you haven't seen firsthand that there isn't a God, 100%. With tithing and prayer and giving, fasting, it's amazing the changes that can take place in a really short period of time, and I'm living proof of that for sure.